Hello and welcome to the Drum History Podcast. I'm your host, Bart Vanderzee, and today we are joined by the Baldmen themselves, Danny Young and Mckee. Gentlemen, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Yes, I have met both of you guys before at the drum shows. You guys are awesome because you came into the industry and just kind of like, you did something completely different. And even your name is funny. I mean, it's just very unique. So why don't you guys real quick before we start and hear about where you came from and where you're going, tell us about your background. Obviously you're drummers, but you guys both have like 9-to-5 jobs. So whoever wants to start, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background and how it relates to like creating a product and drums?
Danny, go.
Okay. I recently moved to Chicago, and this is actually the closest I've ever been to where I grew up, which is Wisconsin. Just kind of a nice little segue there. So my whole family lives up in the Midwest. I grew up on a farm. I graduated in a high school class of 32. And I had always just really been into music. And my dad was a band director, so he kind of pushed us into it. But I picked up drums because it really annoyed my family. I wish I was kidding. Like, I would practice 3 to 4 hours a day. I would get up at 6 a.m. before school started, and I would practice because it would annoy my brothers and sisters. And that awesome. Was kind of how I got into music, and it just created this funny practice routine of playing all the time. Fast forward to college, I actually double majored in music performance for percussion and marketing. So I was really trying to get into advertising at that point. And little did I know how valuable that would be, not only for a career in music, but for, even the stuff that Mike and I have done with Baldman Percussion. So It was kind of this accidental, like, appeasing my mom because she said that I could never be a professional musician and I needed a backup plan. And so I got this second degree, and it ended up being the best thing I ever did, because it literally taught me everything I would need to know about kind of, working as a musician, but also thinking of myself as a brand. And once Mike and I connected and started working on Baldman, it came really naturally because it was something that I had always kind of studied and always learned. So,
yeah, that's awesome. I've found that with everything I've done, where it be for work or whatever, you kind of find a way to relate it back to things that you like, and it usually centers around the drums in some way. Mm-hmm. So very cool. Mike, how about you? What's your story?
I am my family, we're all professional musicians, classical world. And I saw my parents teaching in a studio, not only their own private studio, but also in the collegiate level. And so I got the entrepreneurship bug without realizing that I had it. And much like a lot of your listeners, we grew up loving drums around age 15 to 20 or so. And their entrepreneurship bug like transformed me with like not only playing, but also, treating music and being in a band like a company, like you are a business. And so I always had that in the back of my mind. So, over 15 plus years of touring, doing rock and roll, I always had that bug of entrepreneurship. And when Danny and I met, it was kind of a best of timing of like, we both had a vision and both had time to do something like this. So I give it back to my parents of like music and startup world. That's what I give my gratitude towards.
And what's really amazing is when you don't have to spend all your time doing your hair, you have so much time for other things.
That's what I spend most of my time doing is my hair. So
I don't want to talk about it. Let's move on.
It's what's holding me back.
I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah. Shane Kinney from Drum Center at Portsmouth was on recently doing the gear of Nico McBrain. And he mentioned just how inspired he was by Iron Maiden as a business. Mm-hmm. And I was like, man, that's interesting to look at it like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, over the years, Dana and I are both professional drummers, right? We had people like on all sides saying, think of what your career is, think bigger, think big, think big. And that was in the music side of things, but we're both gear nuts, right? And we always were like, what if we did something in the equipment side of the industry? Because the music industry is so fickle, right? A lot of luck, a lot of woulda, coulda, shouldas, all that kind of stuff. And what if you have some skin in the game in the tangible side of things, meaning physical product? I talked to a lot of people that are on the physical product side of the industry that are still playing, still performing, right?
Yeah.
And that side is a full crapshoot. And then on the physical side of product, you're like, okay, at least we know there's a client. We know there's people that are fans of what we could do.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of doing both, of the art side and also the nuts and bolts of making a product.
Yeah, exactly. Which, again, huge props to people who are making a massive career as a touring drummer. But again, for most people, it's like you need to have another way to bring in income. And again, having kids and things makes it different as well. But we should probably set this up a little bit too. So Baldman Percussion, you guys absolutely broke through with the junk hat. I mean, that's what you guys are obviously most known for. But I'm on your website because I've seen these at the drum shows. But you got the stank foot, the junky halo with big fat snare drum, the jellyfish. It changed a lot of things, I think, in the industry of just like, I don't know, there's like an upcycle kind of thing that happened. And you guys aren't really doing the whole taking bottle caps, but it's that sound of like kind of its own unique trashy sound. So if anyone's listening or watching and doesn't know what that is, then I'll put it up on the screen, but you should do yourself a favor and check it out. But so let's hear the history of how you came up with the junk hat would be it's the OG, as it's called, right? Like that was what started it all.
So Mike and I think it's important to know how Mike and I met, because that's even, I think that's the precursor to where this even came from. So Mike plays with the band Delta Ray, and a lot of what they do is really interesting sounds. Like Mike's drum setup is massive. I love that I'm talking about. You'll tell them about my drum setups, Mike. I'll tell them about yours. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, his kit's massive, but it's so much really interesting percussion. And I ended up going out on the road with them as an opener. And I had never met Mike before, but I walked in. We were both wearing like the big baggy black shirts, necklaces, black skinny jeans, black boots. And we just looked at each other and we started laughing because we looked like brothers. And like that was our initial meeting. So then hang
on. Wait. Skinny jeans, black boots. We're both bald guys.
The bald head. Yeah, okay, if people didn't gather that from the name of
this is no. This is an audio medium. This is the podcast.
Yes.
Come on.
Yes, you share the same barber.
Same barber.
Yes. But yeah, I started geeking out about his drum set, and he had this one crazy contraption on his left side. It was essentially just a rough chopped piece of wood with some really thick chain kind of zip tied to it, and then this piece of metal underneath. And I just was looking at this thing. I was like, what the actual hell is this? And it wasn't until I was out front listening to it from front of house that I just like lost it. I was like, what in the world? Because it sounded so good. And so I ran up to Mike later on and I was like, first of all, what is this? Secondly, like, what's your plan with it? Because I have so many uses that I could also personally, be able to take and kind of throw into my own music. And I basically said, would you be okay with me toying around with this? Because I'm a woodworker. Maybe build one for me, build one for you, and then call it a day. And he was like, sure, have at it. So that was like the initial meeting of where this even started. But it was from something he had created.
How did that, where did that come from? I mean, what gave you that? Yeah.
So my band, Delta Ray, we have one of our flagship songs is called Bottom of the River. And in that song, it's an a cappella piece, right? But as it was developing, I was like, man, I got to figure out what to play with this song because people are turning their heads. So I was like, what if I play big old chains on a trash can to get a kind of sound on metal, right? And live, we would do that. And it was cool. We got on late night TV shows. I was playing, hey, mom and dad, my late night TV debut was Chained on a Trash Can. Thanks.
Yeah, that's my boy.
All right. Thanks, college degree. So anyway, I was thinking, like, how do I get that one sound and be able to free up my hands?
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, it's a hi-hat. What if we place a bottom of a trash can lid, the bottom of the hi-hat, and then have a vehicle for the chains to go and lower down on that metal plate, right? So it became a hi-hat symbol, all right? And then I was like, okay, my hands are now free. I can get that weird, crazy reverse 808 sound with my foot.
Yeah.
And so I made that kind of crappy contraption. Danny comes up. He goes, that's crappy. I can make that better. And then now he won't say this. I'm going to brag on him. He made a much better version of it. Then he and his group that at the time he was playing with was on Stephen Colbert's late night show. And the house drummer, Joe Saylor, ran up to him. He goes, dude, what is that crazy hi-hat thing? I got to have one. He was on his way to the airport. Danny was. And then he called me. He goes, dude, you like this thing. I like this thing. Joe Saylor from Colbert likes it. What if we make a few of them and see what happens? And I told him, like, dude, I love it. I'm a bit of an intense guy. If we do this, we're doing it. All right. We're making a brand out of it. And he goes, all right. And then I'm like, suck it up, Buttercup. Here we go. And, and then we're going to call it the Baldman Percussion. And you know who the first buyer was of the junk hat, aside from our friends that we knew were going to buy one?
Yeah.
Matt Chamberlain was the first dude.
Wow.
Swear it popped up on my phone. I almost fainted. I was out of the shower. I was like, oh, what's this? Oh, my goodness gracious.
Online. Not at a drum show. Online.
Not at a drum show. Wow. Online. Yes.
Wow.
And that's my number one
first
dude.
10. Yeah, one of the first 10 we had built. He was one of the first.
So which is
crazy.
We built 10 to see what would happen. And then they sold out instantly. But one of the first 10 was Matt Chamberlain. So I was like, Danny, we got to maybe take this a little bit more seriously.
Yeah. Man, and I want to have him on the show, Chris from Big Fat Snare Drum. It makes me think of a similar story where he creates it. He creates the Big Fat Snare Drum, and then someone plays it. Yeah, exactly. But it's just if you create it and then it catches on, like you don't have this from the start, like just this, like we got to make 1 million of them. It's like you started slow and then it caught on, and then you went fast. But it's like. It's just by popular demand.
I thought it was really interesting because I think Mike and I were thinking that because of how it looks, which it looks really weird. It's a piece of wood with chains woven through it. It's a crazy hammered metal bottom. Like we were like, oh, it'll be high schoolers and college kids, but man, we'll sell a lot of them. It was all of the drummers that we idolized since we were like 10. Like, and every time someone ordered them, we'd look at like our order list, and like half of them were these just A-list drummers, and Mike and I are just like crapping ourselves.
Crazy.
We would text Bart. We would text each other like someone an order would come in like, wait a minute, is there an Aaron Sterling that's different? A different Aaron Sterling?
Literally.
You know, is there a different Chris Daddy Dave? Is there a different guy? Yeah.
From doing the podcast, or when you find out someone likes something, it's just, isn't it the most fun thing in the world to just get that like gratification that like you've created something and holy crap, this person likes it who I idolized. I mean, there's nothing better than that, to get that, which it's cool with a band to like be the drummer and then be like, oh, they like the band. That's awesome. But you guys created this from nothing. And now it's your favorite drummers are playing it. I mean, it's just the most cool and entertaining and fun thing to build something, I think.
It's so special, man. And like, to be honest, I'm a fan of your pod, by the way. Like I was telling my wife earlier, I listened to a 2-hour conversation about the history of the Black Beauty snare drum. Like, I'm like, who does that? Yeah, absolutely. And I'm a Ludwig artist. I'm very lucky to be a Ludwig artist, and it spoke so deeply to me. So thank you for having this platform of drum nerdery. Who knew that people would want to learn the history of the Speed King pedal? Well, the people that are listening to this right now want to hear that stuff. So thank you for what you do.
Oh yeah.
But for me, like I'm looking right now. I'm looking at my poster of the Modern Drummer magazine where Daru Jones has his signature series drum cat.
Yes.
And just to say that I go back in time to when I was 15 years old, reading every single Modern Drummer magazine and practicing and listening to all the things, right? And I want to go back to my 15-year-old self and say, you can do crazy things. So anybody hearing this right now, if you're a drummer, that does not limit you to just being a drummer. You can invent things. You can have a podcast. You can have the umbrella is big. So anyone listening to here, do not be limited by just the drum sets. The umbrella is huge. Go crazy. We're all here for it.
Yeah, and I think it's honestly more realistic, shoot for the moon or whatever, but it's honestly, when I started going into the PASICs and the, Chicago drum shows, it's more realistic to be like, yeah, I could get a job working at Pearl, or I could work at, a Zildjian or something. And it's like, yeah, it's full of normal, cool people who are drummers. It's like, you can get a job and be in the drum industry and support yourself. And but you guys are doing it from the ground up.
I think what's even more crazy is where this has gone, considering that we're literally building them all by hand, like out of our garage. And it's wood, chains, and metal that we're hand hammering. It's like, it looks crazy. Like my favorite thing ever is when we're at drum shows, because people will walk by and the look on their face is, this is the stupidest thing I've ever seen. And then you start playing it, they will stop dead in their tracks. They will turn around, their jaw will hit the floor, and they will immediately come over. And they're floored. And it's because we weren't worried as much about how it looked. We wanted to make sure that it was functional, yes, but we wanted a very specific sound. And once we started realizing that we could kind of take these electronic sounds that didn't exist like in an acoustic world and reverse engineer them, and we started messing around with it,
create it. Yeah.
All of a sudden that was the game changer. And when I started messing around with Mike's design, is we realized, there's so much more we can do with this now that we're getting it a little tighter and compact and functional. Not only can you use the foot function, but if you hit it, it sounds exactly like every 808 hand clap sample on every record.
Yeah.
So
I gotta
jingles
say,
and
that's a fun story, by the way. I want to tell the audience this, and we've never actually shared this story before. So interesting story. This is a drum history exclusive right here. So when we were at NAMM for the first time, it was in Nashville, the 2019 NAMM. Okay. And Danny was on the road. So I had the first day by myself in the booth, right? And we're in the back corner, and we got this thing called the junk hat. I was a little bit self-conscious because it was very homegrown, and all these cool booths, Fender and Gibson. Okay, and then Baldman Percussion.
Junk hat. I get it.
Mike, I need to interject because this is very important. Mind you, this is NAMM. We've never done this before. We got our boxes 2 days beforehand because we didn't realize that in order to even be there, our stuff had to be retail ready. This was a complete crapshoot of us throwing it together to even get in the door there. So
and probably a big investment for you guys at that point.
It was a big investment.
All right, so you're there alone.
You're good point, Danny. So we had just got our boxes like a few hours prior, like early in the morning. I got the boxes. So we have retail boxes. So anyway, this guy comes up at the booth and he has all these badges on, right, from NAMM, and he goes, "You know what? This is amazing. I'm going to make you guys best in show this year." And I thought he was pulling my chain. No pun intended.
Wow. Yeah.
I thought he was making fun of us. I go, "Dude, come on, man. We're trying the best we can here." He goes, "No, this is amazing. It's hand clap sound. It's a reverse. Like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
And again, I tell him, dude, go easy on us. Come on. And he goes, somebody's going to come and talk to you guys in a few hours. He'll set you guys up for the whole breakfast display, all this stuff.
Wow.
And then sure enough, nobody shows up. So I call Danny. I'm like, he's blowing smoke. He's blowing smoke.
It's like, man, I got these guys so good.
Exactly. And then within the next day, I mean, it's a 3-day, at that point, it was a 3-day program. The next day, some guy comes up and he says, yeah, we're going to make you guys a best in show. But I still was not convinced. And then at that point, Danny was in town. And we are at the convention center at 7:30 in the morning. We have our junk hat on a stand ready to go. And we're still like, this is not true. This is not real.
Yeah.
We bring the junk hat backstage and they do a full presentation about how this is the next big thing. And
wow.
Again, I thought he was joking. And that kind of shows the imposter syndrome that musicians have. So musicians listening to this podcast, word to the wise, you are the real deal. You are a heavyweight. If you're doing cool stuff, you're doing cool stuff. And the average person out there thinks you're a freaking god. So lean into that. Even if you've just done 2% of your dreams, that's still more than anybody has done before. Most people have done before. So lean into that. You are amazing. And even if you've done a part-time living playing music, that is something very, very special. So so fast forward back, we watch them do the best in show. It's the real deal. And then the rest of the NAMM program, we have our plaque, and it's pretty, it's very, very special.
I remember that, like, just you guys, I mean, when you came out, it was just on social media. And well, when did you guys launch the brand? Like, when was the first time you made the Facebook and the Instagram page and went kind of live with all that?
It's like August or September of 2018 was our official launch.
Okay. I was October of 2018 too. So I'm coming up on 6 years. And so you guys are right there. So
And and I remember I was on tour with Del Torre, and Danny and I were like, what do we do for our first video? And I was like, well, we have to wear wigs. We have to wear wigs. And and for those of you who don't know, pause the pod, go to the Baldman Percussion Instagram page, and you're going to see a video of us wearing wigs and not talking about the wigs.
It's like, don't give any attention.
No, absolutely not. Yeah. And then what our product is and how you can use it.
Yeah. But did you notice, okay, so I remember the NAMM. It just thinking, I think everyone thought it was so cool that you guys came out, and then to get that like justification. And I mean, at that point was just starting, was very new to this world, but just to see you guys doing something completely out of left field was unbelievable. Did you notice, was that just like the benchmark of like everything changed then? Orders started rolling in, or was it slower than you thought and didn't have a huge bump after that? Or how did that go?
I think for us, it's been a really nice, steady roll. I would say there was definitely an uptick, like at that point. I mean, we were going from before mind you, we also never did any actual paid promotion on socials. Everything was organic. So it was just because it looks weird, people are sharing about it. So after NAMM, there was definitely an uptick. And then we started realizing that, there's things like retail, that are a whole other side that we had never considered. Mike and I are the sort of people that you don't know what you don't know, but you better believe we're going to figure it out. And we're going to figure it out fast. Yeah,
I think not knowing sometimes makes you, like, I remember going to the first drum show and being like, this was awesome, but I kind of like the way that I want to keep not being, I want to go this way. Not that, it's good to go your own way.
Well, and one amazing thing about Danny is like, we're a complete yin and yang. The way that we work is polar opposites in a beautiful way. Like, I'm one way, he's another way, but we lean into those differences. So as a business partner, it's pretty beautiful. And yes, we don't know what we don't know, but Danny's a mastermind at the art of craftsmanship, at woodworking, at like making product really, really good. And I'm good at like talking to businesses and things like that. It's a wonderful marriage of finding the gaps in where I'm weak and where he's strong. So anybody that's listening right now, like, find where your gaps are and find a counterpart to fill in those gaps, whether it's business, music, or whatever. Nobody has it all. You have a gap in you, and find that person that can kind of counterbalance that and make the best thing possible. Because if it was just up to me, the junk hat would be a piece of crap that looked bad, that sounded cool. All right. Yeah. But because I got Danny, it looks amazing. The packaging is great. The brand is solid. Like, and then we can have an actual viable product to deliver to Sweetwater, to Toban Music, to the Pro Music Shop, all these amazing places. And it's because of his talent. So anybody listening, find the yin to your yang.
Totally.
I always say I highly doubt Baldman would be a thing if Mike hadn't been there, at least for me. Like, had Mike not been there, I mean, because this dude single-handedly pretty much did the patent paperwork himself, because that's how like nerdy he is. Like,
that's tough.
I couldn't even read the first page before I got so confused I just gave up. So
Well, now granted, I didn't read the first, I outsourced everything.
Still.
Okay.
Still.
But I appreciate it.
Yeah. He never read it. He just signed the So, I mean, you guys are in retail, like, and how does the manufacturing work? Because again, Nashville, Chicago, Danny, are you making all these at your house? And then Mike's doing the business stuff. How does that work?
Well, obviously for a long time, actually, when we started, ironically, Mike was in Raleigh, I was in Nashville. So every couple months, because part of Mike's band was in Nashville, he'd be coming to town. So we would just plan a month or two in advance. We would build just as many as we possibly could. And then I would keep all the stock and inventory and do all the shipping from my place. Then Mike moved to Nashville, and he brought with him the pandemic. So everything shut down. He literally moved. What was it? It was the same, at least like 2 weeks before or something, before Nashville shut down. That was crazy.
Yeah. But my wife and I moved to Nashville 2 weeks before the tornadoes that destroyed Nashville. Yeah. And then we had the pandy, and then we had the bombing downtown. So in 2020, we had devastating tornadoes, the pandemic, and then the bombing. So anyway,
not a good year. Not
good timing. Good timing. Yeah.
But that was your point. That was the first time Mike and I were actually in the same like place. So we were getting together weekly at that point. And that was when we started coming up with all of these other instruments that you see. Sure. Everything from the minis to, I guess that was also the year we came out with the Stankfoot. So we really started just working those creative juices and kind of coming up with as many ideas. And I mean, just going to hardware stores and hitting things and seeing what sounded cool and where we could pull inspiration from. And that was honestly one of my favorite times, was just being in that same place.
I'm sure.
I moved to Chicago, so we're back to the weird, back and forth. But we've got it ironed out where Mike is taking care of the first sort of half of the manufacturing and assembly. And then everything comes to me, whether a lot of times we'll just do handoffs at trade shows or something like that. We'll just, because we usually drive. So we'll just hand everything off, and then I'll finish all the manufacturing and do all the actual shipping and stuff from here.
Yeah, so to the listeners out there thinking that Baldman Percussion's glitz and glamour, no. I'm in Chicago. We will meet at PASIC in Indianapolis. I'll have 50 frickin' junk hats in my trunk of my Toyota Highlander. We will hand it off, and then Danny will do like the shipping and distribution, everything through Chicago, or any other final like packaging thing. So it's gritty.
Well, that goes to the point of, you guys both have like full-time jobs, but you're playing in bands and working and touring and doing, but like, is this and Mike, you have a toddler. You have one kid?
Oh, I do.
you have two.
Crap! I gotta go. I gotta take care of him. Crap.
Yeah.
No.
Danny.
Yeah.
No kids. No kids.
Nope. Just a fur
well,
baby.
That's convenient. But anyway, what I'm getting at is having these commitments and things. Are you guys basically after hours, at night making these things, doing the grind?
Yeah. It's like an after hours thing. And as a professional musician, we've always juggled things,
Oh, yeah,
anybody listening to this podcast, they're on the road or they have a garage band, they have a hobbyist. There are all sorts of different levels, right? But no matter what, everybody's juggling something.
Totally.
Even guys that our buddy Jake, Danny and I, our buddy Jake, he plays with Luke Combs and big stuff.
Oh, yeah, Jake.
But he's doing clinics and all this stuff. Like nobody is just sitting around. So we all have hustles. We all do things. So
yes, well said. Yeah.
So the Baldmen are no different than anybody listening to this podcast. Okay, and so we find time, and it's like sprint and then a rest, sprint and a rest. So we got NAMM coming up, sprint. And then we rest, or Sweetwater order coming up. We sprint and then we rest. And right now we're looking at different manufacturing options. We're finding different warehouses they can build for us, and we give them a slice of things. So we're always trying to find ways of lightening our load while maintaining high quality in the product and giving people what they need.
For sure. What does it look like? I mean, I think I'm interested. I hope other people are as well. When a small independent group of guys making junk hats, how does that conversation go with getting into a Sweetwater, as you said? That had to be pretty cool to get distribution. What does that process look like for you guys?
Are you familiar with the Chippendales dancers, the male review?
Of course,
Sweetwater found us. Danny and I were dancing at the Chippendale dancers, like a semi-nude
with
male review. No wigs. So Danny and I we're at PASIC a couple of years back, and it's a trade show, of course, as you all know. And we had our stuff out, and a small posse walked up. They were dressed very well. We're like, okay, this is a company. I don't know who they are, but this is a company. So I knocked Danny on the shoulder. I was like, no profanity. Let's be on our best behavior here.
Yeah.
And then he swore at them. No, anyway, but they came up and they were just trying out the junk. They were like, this is interesting. And they were giving us they go, what are your margins? They were digging in more than your average customer. They go, where's your distribution? Are you international? Yes. What are your SKUs? Okay. And we started, and when somebody says SKUs, I'm like, okay, you are in the industry. That's how many items you have.
Yes.
That's what a
Shark Tank stuff.
Bingo. Exactly. And some guy gives me a card. He goes, all right, well, we are with Sweetwater. We want to have a long form conversation pretty soon. And Danny said, no, I hate you guys. And then I said, Danny, no, they're our friends. It's okay. We can talk to them.
Yeah. Danny's the tough guy here.
The worst. Yeah.
No, I heard things like skew, and I immediately fell asleep.
This is true.
But that's the marriage of the two sides that you need.
Yeah,
right
exactly.
there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then a couple of weeks later, we had an email. We had some emails go through, and then we had a Zoom chat about what are your what kind of products you have, what are your margins, that kind of stuff, and it was very simple. Being present at the trade shows, you are now part of the conversation of the big dogs. No matter what, if you have a few $100 and you have a product, you can go to a trade show. You are next to Sabian. You are next to Creative Percussion and Vic Firth and all these guys, right? And that's the beauty of this little small world that we have. We're not anything special. We're just a couple of guys with an idea. But we had the tenacity to say, we want to play in the sandbox with the big guys.
Totally.
Not to make big bucks, but just to be in the sandbox. And that's what we did. And because of Danny and I's energy and how we feel about what we've made, that is what drew Sweetwater to us. Do we have the best widget in the world, the best product? Not really. But it's the passion that we had with our brand and with our products that Sweetwater says, Let's talk. And then we got into the nuts and bolts of margins and nerdy music, business stuff.
And it's unique. It's very unique, and it's
useful. It's useful
and marketable from a what the hell is that thing? It's really cool looking.
It's one thing to make a product that does an interesting thing, but if it's not useful, who cares?
True. Very true. Yeah,
I would say timing was also on our side, because there was such a push of people all of a sudden being like, I want to get away from the electronics and the pad. And right when that was happening, Mike and I were really pushing this 808 hand clap sample, all of that. And since then, man, it's just blown up. Like, we're drummers. We're literally octopi. Like, we want to be able to play it. Like, why would I want to be sitting in front of 10,000 people on a stage, sitting there on my hands while a track plays part of my music?
True.
I was like, that was honestly why I even approached Mike for it, because I was like, I'm doing this EDM bluegrass concept with this amazing artist, Dan Tyminski, who has 14 Grammys. I'm not going to sit back there and not play. That's not happening.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, it's
Danny, with Dan Tyminski, can you talk about that late night performance that I talked about earlier? Can you talk about that? When you had the Junkat, the first late night debut of the Junkat, what happened?
The chains that I had put on there got caught on the hand hammered bottom that I had done very poorly, and it got stuck in the middle while I was trying to open and close it. So I'm sitting there playing, trying to get it unstuck. And all I could think about was the stage manager coming up to us and saying, "This is pre-recorded, but if we have to stop for you, you will owe us $30,000.
Seriously.
That was all I could think about. And I'm like crapping my pants trying to get this thing going. I was like, I am not going to be the reason that this derails. But
if you can see it on YouTube, by the way, you can watch this video of Dan Tyminski on Colbert, and you see Baldman Danny. He's grooving, and what a freaking professional. Because I know that in his head he goes, oh crap, but he's just playing, and the Junkat's moving. It's a brilliant way. Any young listener
handling pressure. Yeah.
Oh my gosh! And on the performance side of things, that's half the battle. Is things go wrong when you have a drum set. There's a million things that can break. They will break. You got to plow through and just go with it. But the camera is right on Danny, and I see the Junkat messing up, and he's just grooving like nothing happened.
What's interesting, though, was that happening actually made us pivot on what we were using for the metal part, and it ended up completely changing to something that was so much better and made our lives so much easier. So it was like stuff like that is really what allowed us to pivot and get the product to a place where it was completely usable and marketable, and And
I've got another Drum History podcast exclusive story about the different sounds or the different purposes. There was a time I was at Danny's house in Nashville, and we had the prototype Junkat thing, right? And one of us, I don't remember who it was, goes, "What if you hit it? What does that do?" And we hit because the whole thing was just a hi-hat, up and down, up and down. That was it, right?
Yeah.
And we're like, what happens if you hit it? And I don't remember who it was. One of us hit it and goes, "Poof." And we're like, that sounds like a hand clap. That sounds like a Roland 808 hand clap. And Danny pulled up in his Pro Tools session. He goes, hang on a second. I got a sample here of a hand clap. We played it over his speakers. And we're like, hang on. Hit that again. Pop! Play the sample. Pop! Oh my
That's
God.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
So the 808 thing that your Travis Barkers, Chris Daddy Dave, you and Thomas Pridgen use the Junkat for, that was an afterthought.
Wow.
You never know.
It's the gift that keeps on giving.
Just tinker around. Just mess around. Break stuff. Who cares? Just have fun. Hit things, record it. 90% of the time it won't work, but sometimes it will.
Well, and I'm sure other people who are, drummers are, as you said, tinkerers, and they mess around and they hit things. So I'm sure people will find other uses beyond what you guys could even think of. But man, what's it like I mean, when you get in the world of Travis Barker and stuff like that, just people who are married to Kardashians at this point, it's like as big as it gets. What was it like when he got, when you heard that he got a junk hat, or Thomas Pridgen or Chris Daddy Dave? It's just like these guys.
I think the thing.
Well, Kim Kardashian called me and she said, I want to be on the Drum History podcast. And I said, we're doing it tonight, maybe next week. Okay.
Sorry, Kim.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to say the thing for me that is probably most special about this entire company and the junk hat is handing it off to, again, I said this before, people that I've idolized since I was like 8-10 years old, and hearing them say that this is so interesting and it's making them more creative and it's making them a better player. Like, that to me is just so mind-blowing, because it's not a normal instrument. It's not a normal percussion instrument that does exactly what you think. You have to think differently. You have to play it differently in order to actually utilize it. But in doing so, you're doing something you've never done before, and you're creating sounds you've never created before. And I think for me, that is always going to be the one thing that I'm most grateful for, is feeling like I've contributed to taking an instrument that's been so stagnant for so long and elevating it and letting it go further.
Yeah, something new that's not clearly just kind of, I don't want to say dumb, but just a little widget that has no place, that you see in an old drum ad and you go, oh, that's kind of interesting. Oh, that was in 1982, and then you never saw it again. It's like, this is legit. I mean, it caught on, and I know you guys are proud, and you should be very proud. It's a hell of a product. And I will say, I have a junk hat. You guys did an ad with me years ago at this point, 4 or 5 years ago, and we traded a junk hat that's engraved drum history. And I all my drum stuff, I'm in limbo. It's down in the basement. So I was going to grab it, but it's buried under a pile of stuff until I move back up upstairs. But I love the thing. And if you're listening in real time, Christmas is coming up. The engraved one is super cool. So I do recommend that people get that. Do you guys have a laser engraver kind of thing? Do you have it at your house? Oh,
it's
cool.
It's in Nashville. That's one of Mike's things. Yeah, but it's pretty fun. Like, we'll have people send us logos, and I'll take stuff and I'll create vectors out of them and stuff, because that's also my background. I'll send it over to Mike, and then he lasers it. He'll get it printed. He'll stain it. He'll ship it to me. I'll finish the manufacturing, and then we
awesome.
got it. Again, got it locked in.
I can't emphasize enough the value of partnership to all your listeners. I feel like I'm like the dad here, but like, like, we're all good at different things. Find a gal that is your counterpart, and lean into that. The beauty, like, Danny and I have done keynote addresses. We've done some different school educational programs where we talk to kids about entrepreneurship, about creativity, things like that. But none of it is fabricated. None of it's bullcrap. Like, it's the real deal of like, I have an idea, but like, it'll only go so far.
Yeah.
What if I find a guy that's really good at like the nuts and bolts that I'm bad at? That's what life is. And that's what business is. That's what progress is go, I'm great and bad. Find another person that's great and bad at the other things, and become the puzzle pieces.
And there's a fear of like giving up part of your baby or not doing it on your own. But I think you got to lose that.
That's nonsense. I name one person other than frickin' Prince that can do it all. Like, it's extremely rare. And we all have great ideas, right? Everybody listening here has had a great idea for a drum product. Where is that product?
Very true.
Where did this stop? Did this stop in the manufacturing? Did this stop in the marketing? Where did it stop? And then, if it's a good enough idea, find that counterbalance, because very, very rarely can there be one person that can do it all. All right.
Yeah.
So the moral of the story is partnerships, and diversify and delegate.
We also came up with a rule that we really lived with, and it was yes, if not no, because. And it was really important because there were a couple ideas that Mike came up with and a couple ideas that I came up with that like both of us were like, that's terrible. It's awful. And then we would, instead of saying no, we'd say, okay, let's try it out. Let's make something. Let's see how it works.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, that turned into the Stankfoot. That's a perfect example. That was a product that I personally hated. And I was like, this is not a thing, Mike. And I said, but let's build it. Let's see what we can do. And I want to make it have several other features other than just the one sound you're thinking of. So if we can also incorporate this, let's go for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the if, by the way, for those listening, go to the baldmanpercussion.com. You'll see the Stankfoot. It has ridges on it. That was the yes, if from Danny. My idea was like, what if we had chains on your foot that could go on a plate so you could play cajon and have a cool junk hat sound? Yeah. He goes, that's okay. But okay, let's if we can make that plate a guiro sound add on to it and have a and we literally won Best in Show for the Stankfoot because of the if that Danny brought. Not the
multi-functionality.
Bingo.
You guys are all
bingo. It was not just my idea. Again, everybody has ideas. Danny said, yes, if we can do XYZ, instead of no, I don't like this, and it would have died on the vine. Okay?
Yeah.
And there's a million ideas that die on the vine. But Danny was like, if we do this, and because we put the ridges in and the magnet, all this cool stuff, Best in Show winner.
Wow. 2-time Best in Show winner, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing. You guys, are you working on new products right now that are
We're working on a hair on a shampoo. It's like a combination hair remover and shampoo. That's working. It's like a shampoo nair, a sham nair, and it's gonna be a terrible product, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, sham nair wow.
You're taking a left. You're leaving the drum industry. Yeah.
Nair wow. We're leaving the drum industry. We're going full bald. We got Baldman Percussion. We're just going bald man.
More
Screw
bald.
percussion.
Encouraging baldness around the world.
Absolutely. And by the way, I will tell this to the listeners. So when we were starting this thing, Danny and I were like, okay, are we going to call it Danny Mike Percussion, D&M Percussion? What are we going to do? And both of us were like, look, they're just going to call us the bald guys. What if we lean into that? And I told my parents, again, this is like, I guess 2018, 2019 or so, I was visiting my parents. I was like, my buddy and I were making this percussion company, and we're thinking about calling it Bald Man Percussion. And my dad goes, that's freaking brilliant, because my favorite wine is this dumb name, and I'll always buy it because I always remember this stupid name. Yes. And I'm like, okay. And like, look, people are going to call us the bald guys no matter what. Why not lean into it and say,
totally,
this is who we are? And
we're also just goofy guys in general. Like everything we do is like so tongue in cheek, but that's because that's our personality. Why be something we're not? Like,
I mean, it's a great, really cool, unique product, but if you took it too serious and had this,
there you go.
DrumCon Enterprises or something, it'd be like, what? Really 90% it's amazing product. 10% is, I remember the name because it's memorable and you have the little logo
and stupid.
It's awesome.
I appreciate that.
It's good, stupid. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate that. But like one of the things Danny and I always talked about, like the industry that we love is pretty serious. And I'm like, well, we're hitting drums. We're banging on things with sticks. Isn't there a little bit of silliness? Where's the silly with this?
For sure.
And that was our opportunity to go like, let's be silly here.
But the product is legit. I mean, it's again, I said it before, but I highly recommend people check it out. I don't think I've used a Junk Hat Mini or the Mini. Definitely not used the Mini. I think I maybe played the big Mini at one of the drum shows, but it's always fun to see. You guys usually have a booth at most drum shows now, correct? I mean, you're usually pretty much always there, right?
We try to
for
be,
the most part.
Danny, tell the story of the Big Mini.
So I will preface this with, originally we only planned to do like the OG and the 2.0, but we kept getting these incredible drummers that kept on coming up to us at shows and requesting other things. And the two mini versions that we came up with were actually a request from Thomas Pridgen.
Oh, wow.
Who came to NAMM in California and saw what we were doing, and he just loved it. And at some point he's like, well, I want to have 3 of these on my kit, but I don't want them to sound the same.
That's a lot.
And I'm not kidding.
Yeah.
Like, he wanted 3 of them, to a point where it became such a signature part of his playing, where it ended up in one of those drum sample packages that you can buy. Yeah. And it's in there because when you play it, like, it shows you the drum set. And if you select Thomas Pridgen's kit, there are 2 junk hats on the actual kit in this sample pack.
Unbelievable.
Like, just crazy.
Wow.
So that was from him. And then we had another buddy of ours that requested the XL because he was like, I just want more swampiness. Like, how big can we make one of these? And jokingly, we're like, oh, we can probably get an 18 or 20-inch version. I didn't know if that was possible. I just said it was. And then we went home. We were like, all right, how big can we make this? And all of a sudden we have the XL version, which is this massive powerhouse. And you can hear it on the newest Transformers movie. You can hear it in the Dune movie. It ended up on all of these incredible soundtracks in Los Angeles because it does something that nothing else does and no one's had before.
Just this massive... Okay.
Well, but you can do all sorts of crazy stuff with it too, like using a violin bow on the metal bottom. Crazy noises. You can take it and swing it around, or shake it around with the chains inside.
Very much the new Dune. I watched that on an airplane with headphones on my phone.
I'm sure you heard it. I'm sure you did.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And I got a message.
I fell asleep, but I'm sure I heard it.
It was around the minute 14:32 when the Junkhead XL came on. But I got a message. Yeah, sure. But I got a message from a buddy who was like, I can't say this. I can't provide photographic evidence, but the Junkhead is all over that new John Mayer record that just came out.
Wow.
And Aaron Sterling is a buddy of ours who has a bunch of our stuff. And a lot of these heavyweights, they're very particular about their photos. They're not going to put stuff. Also, they're working. They're not going to like, hey, I'm using this. These guys are in the field.
Here's my Junkhead Mini.
No, they're just like, what's the sound I need? And here's what I get. And, that's why it's so good for producers. And all of our products are great in the studio because you don't need to take photos or post it or whatever. Like these are useful products that provide a very interesting sound. And you might use a sample for something, but that sample, you cannot change the very tiny intricacies of it.
Yeah.
With the junk hat being metal and chains, when you hit it with a drumstick, boom, the chains move on the inside just enough. When you hit it again, there's a tiny, tiny variation. All right.
Yeah.
And is it noticeable? Real. Not really, but it makes it so people are interested. It's ear candy. Yeah. And that's what we are providing, that tiny bit of ear candy.
Yeah, there's something to be said about sampling, even if you record 4 measures of an egg shaker and copy and paste through the whole song, as opposed to playing it real the whole time.
A performance.
There's a performance to it, and there's a difference in velocity and on all this stuff to playing the junk hat. And I think, wasn't there a Sabbath song or something where they used, I can't remember what song it was. They used a tray full of like silverware and would drop it to get, it might have been Iron Man or something, to get the stomp of something. And it makes me think of getting that type of just ugly metal sound. If only they had a junk hat,
I know. Well, we've all been chasing that like long sound.
Yeah.
How
the
do you get that?
Scraping its way down. I mean, it's absolutely. Well, the junk hat is for sale, like you said, on Sweetwater and different sites, but I mean, they can go to baldmanpercussion.com. Is that probably the best place to order it now? Especially if you want a custom one. If you want something with your name, your logo, your sibling's name, something
profane you want to put in there, I don't care. I'll inscribe it. I don't care.
Who cares?
But yeah, any kind of custom thing. And also we do a few different custom colors. The beauty is you can go to our website. You can send us a message. It's just Danny and I. We're just a couple of guys. And we are here for you. And if you want something unique to your drum setup, we got you.
Totally. I mean, the color ones are really cool. I don't think I'd seen that before. That's awesome. There's you guys are always coming up with new stuff, and I look forward to seeing you at the next drum show. I don't know if I'll be at PASIC. Having a baby and 2 other kids is making everything literally impossible at the moment. So,
Bart, the fact that we're here right now, I got a 2-year-old. You have 14 kids. How many do you have? 13?
I have 14 kids. Yeah, having 3, 5 and under is like it's just insane.
Is that why you cut your hair? You have short hair now.
No, the reason I had long hair for like 7 years, started looking for a different job, found a job, but didn't really need to, but having long hair for that long, it was like, okay, I'm happy with the cut.
Must be
What's
nice.
crazy though is you have 3 kids under 5 and you still look more awake than I do. I don't get it.
Oh man. I'm barely hanging on. Someone's waking up all throughout the night, but again, someone has it worse. There's nothing to complain about.
This is true.
Yeah.
Hats off, brother. I mean, anybody with the multiple, holy moly, I'm giving you a big old hug and hope you pop a glass of whiskey and then have some coffee in the morning.
I do. I will do that exactly. But
Good.
All right. So give us your socials. I mean, it's pretty obvious, Baldman Percussion, but where direct people to everywhere you want them to find you guys and plug away.
Yeah.
Dang.
Instagram is kind of where most of our stuff lives. So at Baldman Percussion, pretty easy. Baldmanpercussion.com. You can also find some really incredible videos and also order on Sweetwater. We went there and we did a ton of promo stuff. So if you're trying to figure out some new and unique ways to use it, scroll through our Instagram, go over to Sweetwater, because honestly, once you start understanding how this thing sounds and the million different ways people are using it, you can't help but be inspired by it. So.
Yeah.
Totally.
And then, of course, onlyfans.com/Baldman Percussion. You can find lots of good content there. Only Balds. Yeah. Bald fans.
Balds.com.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Yeah.
That's genius. But Danny, it's good that you said that because I remember first getting it when we did the ad trade years ago, which was probably one of the first ads I had on the show. I think Burn Cymbals was the first. And then you guys, I was like, oh my God, I can get products for recommending it to people, which is pretty amazing. But
yeah, buddy.
Hearing that, like, you take it out and like your creativity, it's nice to have a reference of like what other people are doing to know, oh, I can do that and then modify it from there to hear what's possible. Movies, I mean, for studios, creating Foley sounds. I mean, it's pretty cool. So that's awesome you said that. So I'll put links in the description for everything, all their socials and everything. So Danny and Mike, I appreciate you guys doing this, man, especially at nighttime. You know, it's tough, I realize, because you guys could be out there hammering out, trash can lids and making junk hats right now. But appreciate your guys' time for coming on the show.
Absolutely. And look, I'm a fan of the show. I really am. So
thank you.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Really appreciate you.